I will start, and again, hopefully the video will pop up here in a moment. On the video, we have Lila, and it is an absolute honor and pleasure to be working with Lila in preparation for today and getting to know Lila. She is a remarkable individual. We've got you on the video now, Lila.
Right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked about, I want to frame this, and we've talked a lot about the logistics. I'm just going to take a moment and scan the room so that she can see what we have here. And then I'll come back. And so here's the auditorium.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone.
And she felt that it would make a little bit more sense if the camera were looking at me as we do today's Q&A with her. As I said, it's an absolute honor and pleasure. Lila is somebody who suffered a spinal cord injury and at the age of 21. Although it's been a challenge for her in her life on an ongoing basis, it's remarkable what she's accomplished, including, somewhat ironically, starting a successful technology company that was serving Fortune 500 companies. Lila is intelligent, articulate. She came to PPR. PPR didn't reach out to her. She came to PPR, and she wanted to tell her story. She worked originally with PPR staff, including Corey Laurel, and I was brought in kind of at the end to facilitate this Q&A. Lila and I have no doctor-patient relationship. We never have. My role here is interviewer. And it's an opportunity for Lila to tell some of the logistics of her circumstances in terms of the breach that she suffered and how it impacted her. So, Lila participated in an NIH study, and I think we all feel that NIH is truly a remarkable organization that does excellent work. And to me, that underscores the significance of her story all the more. So with that said, and thank you again, Lila, for being a part of this.
You're welcome.
With that said, will you please tell us about the NIH study, including how you became involved?
Okay, yeah. The NIH study was being conducted by the Surgical Neurology Branch, also known as the SNB of the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke at NIH. At that time, Dr. Edward Oldfield was the chief of the SNB, and it was he who developed the study. And the actual study itself, or procedure, was performed by Dr. John Doppman. I was referred to the study after experiencing a second catastrophic bleed of an arterial venous malformation, which 9 years prior had caused my spinal cord injury. Drs. Oldfield and Doppin were studying a substance that could be used for embolization of arteriovenous malformations, blocking them off, in other words. And the idea was to introduce this substance via a microcatheter and directly into critical blood vessels in the mass in my back and my spine, and getting just the right vessels and thereby preventing future bleeds. And so I went through, had the procedure. I have not had a bleed since then. However, the one major sort of thing that can happen when you have a procedure like this is that it can stroke the spinal cord completely, and that did happen for me. So I ended up with much less mobility than I had originally, but at the same time I have not had another bleed, and that's been really great for me.
And with respect to the study, and particularly the issue of privacy, what were your expectations relative to your privacy in the study?
I expected complete privacy. I expected the same kind of privacy I think that we all expect when we go to see our physicians and medical providers. I almost felt that it was given. I think that I don't think that's unlike most people, that it's something we don't really think in any kind of great depth about. We just take it for granted that our information will be protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that way. That was.
So did you feel that they conveyed to you that privacy was something that they would work to protect?
They did. And I also was given a form that I signed that laid out for me what their privacy policies were and assured me that their privacy policies were in place and that the information would be protected.
So you expected privacy and you wanted privacy, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
So how did you discover the breach?
Well, this was in October of 2007. And my husband and I periodically Google our names like many people do. And on this particular day, my husband Tim was doing the Googling. And he appeared before me with a piece of paper in his hand that he had pulled off the printer with this look of disbelief on his face and handed it to me. And as I looked at it, I was slowly, bit by bit, reeled into this surreal sort of scenario where I first saw that this was an image of a website, which happened to be a German sort of gaming site for video game enthusiasts around the world. And that this had been mixed up amongst other files on a particular physician's account who happened to apparently be, he was an NIH physician, but he also apparently was had some interest in gaming. And so as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing first my name, and then I see my birth date, and I see my home address, and then I see my diagnosis, and then I see details about the procedure that was given to me, or that I underwent. And I was, at that point, shocked. I'm speechlessly shocked. And that's how it was found.
So initially, you probably weren't fully aware of the source of the breach, but ultimately, since it was data that was with NIH somewhere along the chain of custody, it sounds like, thought that obviously it came from NIH. So how did you respond to discovering the breach?
I was stunned. I couldn't imagine that could possibly be really happening to me. And from NIH of all places, I mean, I expected more from them. So I was in a state of disbelief, and I was very upset by it because I understood the implications.
So you contacted NIH?
I did. I contacted the NIH thinking that I wanted to give them the opportunity to get to the bottom of it for me, to look into it without any kind of outside scrutiny. I felt like that was the right thing to do. And so I spoke with some very high-level people at NIH who assured me that they would get to the bottom of it, that I would be kept informed all along the way. And so that's how it started.
So they acknowledged the breach? Initially,
they didn't.
Okay.
But after I provided them with the proof of the breach, then they accepted that this had happened and that some of their people were involved.
And was that a struggle to get to that point?
It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was too much of a struggle. It was. I mean, I clearly had to make my case, but having done that, they appeared to accept it and then assured me that they would find out how this had happened.
And so the eventual acknowledgement of the breach, what form did that take? Was it written? Was it verbal? Both?
Verbal.
Okay. Okay. And did they eventually give any written acknowledgement of the breach?
Yeah, they did. In correspondence with them throughout the course of the months after this had been discovered, that was referenced several times.
And did they ever get into the details of the cause of the breach? Did they explain to you the chain of custody and where things broke down at NIH?
No. They said they would, but no, they did not.
Okay. And after all these years, has there been any follow-up from them in giving you an answer to that? Have they figured it out? Do you think they know? Do you think they don't know? Or
Oh, I think they know. I don't know how they couldn't know, but after several months of kind of stringing me along, I finally called them again and asked the person I was in contact with what the status of the study, or I mean, of their research was into this, and she said, well, they were finished and had been finished for about a month, but I had not been notified of that. And so I asked for more information, and I was told that the only way that I was going to be able to get any more information was to file a Freedom of Information Act request, which again stunned me because that was not what our deal was. So I did that, and ultimately what I got back was a letter saying that there was no information that could be released. It was all protected.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, incredible. So how has this experience impacted you?
Well, you know, it's been something that is, for a long time, it was on my mind quite a lot. Now it's on my mind periodically because, you know, once something is on the internet, then it's out there. And, you know, I know that there are data miners who go to great lengths on behalf of their corporate customers to find information about people, and many of those things are really strikes against you, and it can determine whether you get insurance, what kind of health care you get, all kinds of things. And so because the internet never forgets, it's out there, and I know it's out there, and I really have no way of knowing when someone references that, if I am in a situation where I am denied some kind of life insurance or something like that. I don't know. I don't necessarily know where it comes from. So it's always hanging out there. I know that is always hanging out there, and at any time can impact my life and my family's life.
And would this weigh in your decision-making and participating in a future medical research project in the future?
It would. It would. Yeah, it would. I mean, I would certainly have to have an in-depth discussion with the medical individuals involved before I would consent to moving forward with something like that.
What about in doctor-patient relationships? Has this impacted you at all outside of medical research, but specifically in doctor-patient relationships?
I would say not really on a person-to-person human level, but it's always in the back of my mind, and I probably ask more questions about privacy procedures than many people do whenever I'm in a situation where that's an issue.
Okay. What I'd like to do is I'd like to open it up to the audience for Q&A, but first I'd like to ask you, is there any kind of message that you would like to give to this audience of policy wonks and media people relative to privacy, relative to your experience?
Well, I think just that I think until something like this happens to you, it's kind of a remote sort of thing that probably most people don't really think a lot about. But it does happen, and if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. And I expected more from NIH. I feel that this is our government, and as our government, they represent us. And the response I got was not the kind of response I would want any other American to get. And as representatives of the people of this country, and working on behalf of the people of this country, I think that they owe more to, individuals who not only take part, but the public in general, and anyone who has to interface with them at all. This really had a chilling effect on my confidence in government, and it was not a good experience.
Thanks for sharing that. Thank you. I'm going to turn the camera around now and ask people in the audience to, if they have any questions that they'd like to ask Lila. And also, I fell down at the beginning of this, something that I've been pushing for from the beginning. I have to insert that as part of this process, Lila gave informed consent, and we talked with her about what the venue would be, who would be here, the fact that media would be here, the fact that this would be recorded. I meant to say that at the beginning, so I'll say that now. So she was fully informed, and this was done on her terms, not our terms. So anybody have any questions? Looks like we've got one over here.
Should I go to the mic?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Lila, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. I'm sorry you had this incident happen to you. A lot of doctors have, they bring their own computers to work, and they take data and they put it on those computers. Sometimes IT departments don't have a view on an independent agent like a physician and what they put on their computer, including video games. Would you have felt better in this instance if he had kept the encryption on your file on his computer so that it could not be leaked out to the internet?
If I understand your question, do you mean if the information about me that had been published on the internet had been encrypted?
Right. In other words, it wasn't readable, had been made non-readable.
Well, I mean, I certainly would have felt better about that, because it would have been, it would just be like that it wasn't really out there, at least not to the extent that it was. But that's not what happened. And as I said, it was mixed in with these gaming files and things, which made me feel all the more as if there wasn't any real consideration for me as a patient.
And how he treated the data that was on your file. He didn't maintain it properly.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry, that he did not maintain the data that was in your file properly when it was transferred to his care. Thank you.
Right, not at all.
Okay.
I think we'll go over here.
Lila, I'm a physician, and the more that I learn about HIPAA, and the more that I understand the ignorance about physicians and the internet in general, and the protections and the security, the more I get disturbed when I hear these stories. And what I wonder about, as you, with your tech background, or if you have consulted with anyone in technology, how this may have happened, because it seems to me there has to have been some uploading of information. I mean, to me, I can't even fathom how this happens, but as I start to think about how different technologies and mobile technologies are merging, do you have any speculations, and does that make you think of any potential ways that as we educate users of data, specifically those care providers, how they need to be cautioned about this?
I'm not sure if I got all your question. There's a bit of an echo, and I'm having a difficult time with hearing. Scott, are you able to maybe summarize that for me?
Oh,
I can hear you.
So do you have an understanding of how, have you speculated personally how this may have happened?
speculation as to how this might have happened.
And in ways that
Technically.
a physician, any care provider, can comprehend the potential of the dangers of what they do as they...
And how we might educate providers in particular about these risks, these technical risks in particular.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, I have speculated a great deal about how it happened, and the best guess that I have is that this particular physician was someone who enjoyed video games, or to some extent, because he was a member. You have to be a member of the site, and from all the records that were also there, I mean, this was mixed in with many other things. It appeared that he was working on research of his own, and somehow those files were uploaded to this gaming site, and whether it was inadvertent or not, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that would have been done deliberately, but that's as much as I know. And in terms of educating people, I think that patient privacy rights is doing. They're on the front lines of that work, and I think that summits such as this are good times when we can get the word out to people that this is something that really does happen, and that it does have an impact on people's lives, and that it can happen at the highest levels, not just at your hometown doctor's office.
Interjecting a very quick question, were other people affected as well, do you know?
Yes, there were 14 other people whose the same information about them was published.
Okay. And then we're going to go back over here. Another question?
Hi, thank you for Skyping in, and I'm really happy to see an actual physician at the podium since this relates to health. I'm a Simmons College graduate school of library and information science graduate, but I also had a lot of work way before paying for graduate school in working with files, hard copy files. Many of them were dusty and, lots of staples and everything like that. I'm really sorry to hear that you were played around with. And, basically, that's the way I see it. So this cat and mouse game is dangerous, actually. And I think it almost it gives us a little bit of, or rights actually, to say no. And we have no against drugs, no against alcohol, no against drunk driving, no against, other things in America. I think we should be able to say no for having to put our stuff online or even in the databases. I do have many cases where databases get deleted. The files are not maintained properly. There is kind of this trend now that no one wants to touch dirty paper. So my question to you is, and maybe to other people here, is that may we use paper? I'd really like to just use paper to write my notes. And are we allowed to enter our data in using some form of paper that is, that actually works for some people? Because if we're forced to use computers, I think that's against our rights.
What are your thoughts on that, Lila? Could you hear that?
I couldn't hear it completely. I have a basic idea, but Scott, if you could just kind of summarize the question for me.
I believe a fair summary might be, do you think that people should have the right to request that their information be kept on paper if they chose that versus in a digital format? Yes, I guess I do feel that they should be able to. At the same time, I know the importance of moving into the digital age, and I think that when we have a system that works well and that provides a scenario in which people's medical information can be all in one place, because I know for me, I have been in the medical system for a long time now, and I have information all over the place. And as a result, if I'm not on top of things, then I'm at risk for having procedures repeated and things like that, because no one knows that maybe I had an MRI 2 weeks ago or a month ago. So I do feel that I'm a proponent
of having a good system for being able to use the technology for better providing information about the background of patients. But at the same time, I think that people absolutely should have the right to ask that they have their records maintained in paper if that's what they choose.
Thank you.
It may have implications with regard to how well other, how well their medical providers can keep up with their information, but I think that they should have that right.
Thank you. Another question here.
Lila, thank you for sharing your experience with us. We've been thinking this morning a little bit about some of the things that can be done when breaches do happen. You know, we all feel strongly about privacy and control, but sometimes breaches happen. And I was thinking as you were talking about how patients feel when medical problems go wrong, and what a big difference it makes when organizations simply explain how the problem happened and what they've done to resolve it or to rectify it, to change things in the future. And I'm just wondering, from your point of view, as a process, if the organization had stepped up and taken some accountability and explained to you what it is they found that went wrong and apologized for that, would it have made a difference in how this whole experience seemed to you?
Summarizing, do you want a summary or did you hear that?
I think I heard that.
Okay.
I think I heard that. It would have made all the difference if that's how it had been handled. Because I mean, it became clear to me after a couple of months that I really was just being strung along, and then that was certainly confirmed at the end when I was told that the study had, or that their investigation had been completed for a month, and I hadn't even been notified at all, and that the only way I could find out anything was with the Freedom of Information request. Yes, I wanted them to be honest. I mean, I thought naively, I guess now perhaps, I thought that they would be honest with me, given that I went to them instead of like running to the media or, doing something else that one could do in a situation like this. But I did not get that.
It
And
seems to
so
me
yes,
like
that would have made a difference. Absolutely.
after they damaged your trust the first time, they had an opportunity to restore it a little bit by making a different choice the second time. And
Yes.
it's unfortunate that they didn't take that second opportunity.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I know that mistakes can happen, and this is an egregious sort of mistake, and it needs to be mitigated so that these kind of things happen less and less frequently. But I was hoping to be treated with some level of consideration and respect, and I really just did not get that. And if I had, it would have made a difference.
Handling those apologies well is important. And we have one more question, and we're almost out of time. Go ahead.
Just a quick comment on that last piece. I worked for an organization in a non-health context, and they did issue resolutions so well that people would come out of it being even bigger fans of the organization because they were so transparent and so good about it. From what you've said, it's really made clear good intentions aren't enough. When you, at the beginning of the study, you asked all the right questions, you were told all the right things. Earlier, someone discussed the idea of having a certification board where perhaps there was giving public grades to different organizations about how well they did with privacy, maybe like an OSHA for privacy. Would that make an impact for you? Would you agree with that approach?
I think that is a great idea, and that to have that bit of public oversight would perhaps make something of a difference. So I would certainly be all for that. I think it's actually a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I answer the question for you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Lila, I want to thank you so much. It's been an absolute, as I said, pleasure and honor working with you. You're amazing. And I know that everybody here would like to thank you as well for coming here today.
Thank you all so much, and thank you all for all of the hard work that you're doing and your interest in this issue. It's an issue of our time, and you're all needed, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.